More than a year ago, I watched the first episodes of Attack on Titan and I thought it was mediocre, to be honest. I remember thinking it was very basic and the writing of the show was like every other shonen anime out there. But looking back at it now, all the criticisms I had regarding the show were mostly because of the narrow mentality I had at the time. A mentality which sees a popular show which I didn't get into and thinks this show doesn't deserve the popularity it has. And everyone who likes it can't understand how a good show shall be like. There are popular anime which I like, but no, the anime I like are popular because they are actually great and deserves the popularity they have. Whereas stuff like Attack on Titan are popular because its fans are ignorant and will clap at anything they are shown. And oh boy was I wrong. The opening scene of Attack on Titan is pure heat, to say the least, as the colossal, monstrous figure rises up the gigantic walls looking over a weak and scared village. This format of opening your show with a big action scene which will take place in the future is not revolutionary by any means. In fact, it is kinda overused at this point, as it is a really effective way to give us, the audience, something to look forward for. But what I really like about this format is that by showing what's to come to the viewers, you signal to them a sense of finality. What I mean by the word finality here is that it shows that the author knows what he is doing. It's a promise almost, that give me your time and patience and I will promise that we will get to this big action scene and it will be worth it. However, not all the shows get this format right, especially the long-running shonen anime. A lot of the predecessors of Attack on Titan are infamous for milking/dragging out a plot point to its absolute limit. And within this process of dragging the plot, the author often forgets the big climax that he was building up in the first place. It's like the author knows where he needs to go but doesn't actually know how to get there. I know this explanation was a little bizarre, so let's try to understand this through a meme. So Boruto also uses this format for its opening scene. The age of Shinobi has come to an end as we see two insanely powerful teenagers fighting it out in the remnants of the Hidden Leaf village. Keeping logical and power scaling issues aside, there is nothing inherently wrong with this scene. It goes back to the classic Naruto and Sasuke dynamic in a really cool way. Yet what I don't like about Boruto is that it takes a huge leap into the future, which is obvious when we pull back to the present day and he's still just an academy student. We went from Boruto being the only shinobi left alive to him munching down a limited edition green chili hamburger. Done right and this could still work, but it's such a large ask of an audience to stick with you for an ending which is probably a decade off in the distance. Compare that to Attack on Titan's opening scene and you will see a much more reasonable ask. Attack on Titan opens with a climax which we will see happening in about 15 minutes. Is it grander or more epic than the Boruto opening? No, definitely not. Yet it is more than enough for us to trust the author. By delivering on a small promise, the viewers are much more likely to stick with the author till the actual big event, which is geniusly also teased in the same episode. Now imagine if Attack on Titan opened up with Eren and the survey corps digging around in the basement. It would simply be a lot. It is teasing us an event which will not take place till 6 years. Instead, Hajime Isayama immediately made it clear that he is an author that can be trusted. And now that I think of it, that's also the reason that while I was criticizing the show at the beginning, I still never stopped watching it. Cause in a way, I kind of knew that there is an insane payoff to whatever is happening right now. The process of writing can be really overwhelming at times. You have so many ideas, opening scenes, climaxes, but zero ways of building from there. It's not surprising that most of the authors are lost in this process itself. But what can help is having an already completed written work. You have an ending in mind, a beginning, and a character who needs to go through the part to reach that ending. Now let's take this process and apply it to Attack on Titan. For 6 years, the story was building towards the basement reveal. From the very first episodes, this was already established and it would continue to be revisited over and over again. This is the long-term goal. But to make this work, the author needs our trust. He wanted us to know that he's not gonna drag us along for years without any plan in mind, so the short-term goal was to deliver something at least moderately satisfying. Something that the audience experiences and thinks, I'm on board for more. It makes us believe that with this author, you are not being strung along as the author haphazardly lays down railway tracks while the train is still moving, but rather You're on a roller coaster which has been carefully designed for the perfect emotional experience. But now that we have laid down how Hajime Isayama perfectly started Attack on Titan, let's also talk about the climax this opening teased in the first place. Because just getting to the climax isn't enough if the climax itself is a letdown. Many may say that the emotional moment of this episode was the death of Eren's mom. But I don't necessarily agree with this, because any story can kill off the main character's parents. In fact, many stories do. As emotional Carla Yeager's death might have been, I don't really give any credit to Attack on Titan for pulling this off. But even when I used to downplay the series' quality, the moment that stood off to me as the highlight of the episode was this brief little moment we had with the character of Harness. The decision of Harness to confront the Titan trying to eat Carla Yeager was in any other series going to be the action-packed spectacle of this climax. But what Hajime Isayama does differently is have him chicken out. Remember, the humiliation of being kept in a cage. These are the opening lines of the first episode and is the message that the writer wants us to be thinking about as the episode ends. This message is entirely delivered to us through the character of Harness. The beauty of Hajime Isayama's writing in this opening scene is that he makes us believe that the payoff to its tease will be an out-of-the-world invasion of massive titans, but actually it was always just the text. And through this text, Hajime Isayama is able to display a level of competency and skill which develops a trust in the audience for the author. And I started to realize this when I was in middle of season 3 and just brainstorming different theories with myself. I used to just bounce off ideas in my mind like what if the titans are this or what if Eren did that. And this is when I realized that viewers theorizing about your story is probably the best compliment to a writer's skill. Because theorizing is basically a viewer indirectly acknowledging that they believe everything they have been shown so far has meaning and weight to it. You theorize based on the hints that have been thrown to you by the author. And if you don't trust the author that he will in time assign meaning to these meaningless hints, or you think that this is the type of author who forgets stuff or doesn't have a strong sense of where the story is going, then theorizing has no purpose. So it was when I was deep into theorizing what Attack on Titan's future could be that I realized maybe this author is more than I ever gave him credit for. And despite my criticisms at the start of the show, giving my time to this author proved without a doubt that this was a story written by an author who knew what he was doing. It was an author who had intent and wrote everything with a purpose. After finishing the final season part 2 and all of it behind me, I can confidently say that Attack on Titan has some of the most complex and fresh writing of any anime or manga that I have ever seen. It's a story that has continued to shock and impress the entire world, and all of this behind a single man. Thanks for watching.